Morning, rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. We made it through Monday. It's over. Everything else is gravy this week. Hope you're feeling good today. I'm glad that the studio audience is feeling great. If you're just tuning into the show, make sure that you click like and subscribe to the channel that you're watching if you are enjoying what you're seeing. And certainly some of you absolutely are. We got some good news from our friends who have hooked us up through the Spreely app about some of the download numbers that we've seen of the show, and it's very exciting to see. We added 120,000 extra views of the Wake Up America show in the last month since we have been on Apple, Fire TV, and Roku. Definitely reasons to be excited. And of course, we are streaming live on Rumble as well as on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Kick, and a billion other places. Basically, it's an all of the above strategy because we never know who's going to take us down for what reason. When the cancel culture comes, you never know what'll happen. We have been banned on Twitch before. All right, let's talk about the news. The Trans Fest at the Pride Rally at the White House got a little bit dicey yesterday. I've got some photos and videos to share with you that I don't know if I'm supposed to show, but I guess I can because they're not technically female, and also apparently it's legal to free the nipple in Washington, D.C. It's going to be a little dicey in here this morning, but then we will try and smarten it back up after we post some of the videos and photos of the White House Trans Pride Festival yesterday. It's just going to be a little bit weird in here this morning for a little bit until David Reaboi joins us. He's going to be talking to us about why he's taking sides in the Trump versus DeSantis battle. David Reaboi's first time on the show today will join us. He'll join us to talk about why he's picking sides in the Trump versus DeSantis struggle, and I'll talk about why I haven't made a decision yet. We'll have a good back and forth. He's a national security, media, and political warfare expert, and he's also a fellow at the Claremont Institute. Politico describes him as a right-wing Twitter pugilist. All right, cheerio, oh boy. We'll talk to David Reaboi at 7:35. At 8 o'clock today, Camelia Peterson's going to join us to talk about why the Kochs, have picked a side in the Trump versus DeSantis battle, and, well, they're launching an all-out war against Donald Trump. At 8 o'clock, Camelia will give us a detailed breakdown of why the Kochs. Well, I say the Kochs, but I guess they are still the Kochs, but one of them, there's one Koch left. One of the Koch brothers will be talking to us. Camelia will be talking to us today about why the Kochs, the institution of the Kochs, have launched an all-out assault against Donald Trump, and she'll join us at 8 a.m. to explain in detail that campaign. At 8:30 today, Nick Freitas is going to be joining us. I'm excited to have him on today for the very first time. Former Green Beret and delegate at the House of Representatives in the state of Virginia will be talking to us today about why it's time to say goodbye to the FBI. Bye, bye, bye. Oh, won't that be sad? No, I don't think you'll be sad at all. We'll talk to Nick Freitas today at 8:30 a.m. and see where he stands on the biggest issues of the day. If you'd like to have your opinion heard on the Wake Up America show, you can certainly let us know what you think about what's going on in the world, especially if there are any big news stories that you think that we might be missing. We'd love to hear from you. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586 to text the show today, and we'll be glad to share your messages with the rest of the audience. Again, 573 319 1586. All right, well, let's get into it. A transgender model and activist fired back at criticism for popping off her top at the White House and cupping her breasts. I told you it's getting a little weird out there this morning. Sorry to start it was so dicey, but hey, the news is the news. Anyways, she did this immediately after cupping. She cupped her breasts moments. I say cup her breasts, cup his breasts. After shaking hands with President Biden, saying that going topless is legal in Washington, D.C., and she was just living her truth. Here she is there with photograph, FYI. Hey, listen, I don't want to hear about any censorship over on YouTube or any of these woke platforms this morning who are upset that I'm posting this photograph. First of all, that's a man. And, well, maybe will I get censored for saying it's a man, or will I get censored for posting a picture of a man's boobs or a woman or not calling her a man? It's just so confusing these days. Anyways, let's take a listen to what Rose has to say.
Use the video of me topless at the White House to try to call the community groomers, etc. And I would just like to say that, first of all, going topless in Washington, D.C. is legal. And I fully support the movement in freeing the nipple, because why is my chest now deemed inappropriate or illegal when I show it off? However, before coming out as trans, it was not. All you're doing is affirming that I am a woman. All you're doing.
Okay, pause. Actually, good point there, right? Am I wrong about this one? Because if she's a man, this is not easy to follow here. If she is a he, then it's legal, but apparently it's also legal to be topless as a woman in Washington, D.C. So what she did was legal. Just, but I do think it's interesting. You can see if you're watching us live right now on the video, it might be a little difficult for you to see here the comments on Instagram if you're watching us on a mobile device. But on the right side, someone says, care to explain why exposing your body in front of children was a good idea? At least try to be a decent person and make trans people look good. And another person said, you've literally made the trans community look so stupid. Yeah, so when you post a photo like this and you just kind of see it immediately, you just some people might, before they know what's going on, or maybe if you don't see the LGBT flag in the background, you might get confused about who that is. But just remember, Finkel is Einhorn, and Einhorn is Finkel. This movie, and I guess I'll pause it since it's having trouble loading anyway. The funny one is this movie is actually now considered transphobic. But trans activists actually speak out against Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, because the entire movie is just one big transgender joke. All right. Well, so I guess I have to ask the question: is it legal? Okay, if it were, see, this is just a brave new world that we live in. If it's a man, it's legal. Like let's say that it was illegal, like it is in a lot of areas of the country, as a woman to bare your breasts. If you're a biological man, but you get fake tatas, is it still legal because you're a man, or what is it? Maybe it's if you have bottom surgery, then it's illegal and you're legally considered a woman. Jeez, this is a confusing world that we live in. Am I wrong? I don't know how to behave here. I don't know how to act. So yeah, what a time to be alive. LOL, says John Rail and all of our friends this morning. I know that you're probably tuning in right now going, what in the hell is going on? I promise you, yeah, we're starting off a little bit weird, but it's only going to get weirder from here. So you can text the show with your thoughts on the news of the day at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Before going topless at the executive mansion, the Idaho-born model had the opportunity to meet the president and First Lady Jill Biden, both of whom delivered speeches to the hundreds of invitees in the White House. Rose Montoya, she kind of shared this spliced together video of the event with her 103,000 followers on Monday. And she even got the opportunity to record an accidental selfie video of the commander-in-chief rather than the intended video. So included in the video is a clip delivered by the 80-year-old president who said that the members of the LGBTQ plus community were some of the bravest and most inspiring people he's ever known. The First Lady was captured saying, "You are loved, you are beautiful, you are heard, you are belong, you are Einhorn, and you are Finkel." Anyways, so I guess sort of has a point when she says that people who are saying that she shouldn't have bared her breasts are sort of affirming that she's a woman. Am I wrong in this one? Like, listen, like you can understand why anybody would be confused. If I'm confused about this, everybody is a little bit confused. I need your guidance. I want to hear your thoughts on this one. Somebody's asking, where is Edie? You know what? Honestly, Edie Vogel would have been an absolute perfect guest to have to talk about this today, but I didn't think about it, and I'm sorry. You know what? I was wrong for that. White House trans activists. You can text the show today with your thoughts on the show at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Make sure if you're watching us over on YouTube to switch to the from the live chat, switch to the top message, or excuse me, top messages to all messages, so that YouTube doesn't remove comments that you might want to see. Again, if you are tuning in over on YouTube, you can click that little gear box icon, the little gear icon, and go from top messages to all messages so that you can see what everybody's saying this morning. Maria Crab says, "Don't let the door hit you on the way back into the closet." Oh, did I say that? Sarah Palacio says, "It's too early for the tough questions, AP." Chris Morrill says, "Shallow Hal is now considered seriously fat phobic too." Man, that was a funny movie too. Do you ever wonder how they pay for all that work? Yes, I actually do wonder that, Camellia, but I'm guessing for a lot of them, they probably go into debt. John Rail says, "Oh my God, Austin, I haven't had my first cup of coffee yet. Starting off with this story, LOL." John Rail also says that nothing makes sense. Men are women, women are men. Cats have puppies, and dogs have kittens. I know it doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah, target rich environment, says Pedo Joe, gotta go immediately. Totally get it. Well, Pedo Joe, gotta go. Here's some good news for you. The FBI source who reported President Biden's alleged role in a bribery scheme said that a Ukrainian businessman who claimed to keep as insurance 15 audio recordings of his first son, Hunter Biden, and two of Joe Biden, a Republican senator, revealed on Monday. This might be the smoking gun. Take a listen to this story. This is Chuck. I said Chuck Schumer. I'm talking about Chuck Grassley on the floor of the Senate talking about these alleged audio recordings that exist that might prove this Burisma bribery scheme. Take a listen to this.
Let me assist for the purposes of more transparency on this subject. The 1023 produced to the House committees redacted reference that the foreign national who allegedly bribed Joe and Hunter Biden allegedly has audio recordings of his conversation with them. 17 such recordings. According to the 1023, the foreign national possesses 15 audio recordings of phone calls between him and Hunter Biden. According to the 1023, the foreign national possesses 2 audio recordings of phone calls between him and then Vice President Joe Biden. These recordings were allegedly kept as a sort of insurance policy for the foreign national in case that he got into a tight spot. The 1023 also indicates that then Vice President Joe Biden may have been involved in Burisma employing Hunter Biden. Based on the fact.
Side note, why do we have to live in a gerontocracy? Why is it that the rulers of this nation, I mean, they're all on life support. They've all got like kidney disease, and they've got like Alzheimer's medication shipped to the hill every single day. I'm not joking, by the way, about the Alzheimer's medication. It's kind of an open secret that like Capitol Hill has like a steady supply of Alzheimer's meds going to the Capitol for the senators and congressmen. These are the people who are making the national security decisions and economic policy decisions that affect every single one of us. Not that, I don't necessarily agree with what Chuck Grassley is saying here, that some of them are, perfectly fine people. Some of them are, I'm sure. They're rapists. They're And some of them, I assume, are good people.
To the Congress and the public, it's clear that the Justice Department, the FBI, haven't nearly had the same laser focus on the Biden family. Special Counsel Jack Smith has used a recording against former President Trump. Well, what is U.S. Attorney Weiss doing with respect to these alleged Joe and Hunter Biden recordings that are apparently relevant to the high-stakes bribery scheme?
Yeah, so
Let me assist for the
what are we talking
purposes
about
of more
here?
transparency.
All right, so let's give you a little bit more of an insight into what's going on here. So Chuck Grassley here makes this claim in a Senate floor speech after the FBI director Christopher Wray allowed some of the members of Congress to see a file about the claim that Hunter and then Vice President Joe Biden received $5 million apiece to serve the interests of Burisma Holdings owner Mykola Zlochevsky. Okay. Um, so what's being alleged here is that there is a pay for play, a bribery scandal involving a businessman from Ukraine. Interesting that they have so much interest in that region of the country, especially with what's going on over there right now. Clayton Fro texted in and messaged in and says, I'm confused. Is this according to the 1023? Yes, this is what we're talking about here. The 1023 form produced to the House committee redacted reference that the foreign national who allegedly bribed Joe and Hunter Biden allegedly has audio recordings of his conversation with them. 17 total recordings. So according to the 1023, this foreign national possesses 15 audio recordings of phone calls between him and Hunter Biden. This is what Grassley says. According to that 1023, this national possesses audio recordings of phone calls between him and then Vice President Joe Biden. These recordings allegedly were kept as part of an insurance policy for this foreign national in case he got into a tight spot. This 1023 also indicates that then Vice President Joe Biden may have been involved in Burisma employing Hunter Biden. So Grassley, who can sort of barely understand in that speech, is saying that the Justice Department and the FBI hasn't done anything to investigate this. It's time for them to get involved. And he says they no longer deserve the benefit of the doubt. But in my mind, when has the FBI or the Department of Justice ever, been given the benefit of the doubt? Not on my part, but maybe for a lot of Republicans. I have no idea. You can text the show today at 573 319 1586. That's 573 319 1586. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these stories of the day. We've got lots more great content coming up for you today. Nick Freitas is going to be joining us at 8:30. I'm really excited to talk to him for his very first time on the show. Cornelia Peterson's going to explain why the Kochs stepped into the presidential race in a big way against Donald Trump. And then at 7:30 this morning, I'm going to speak to David Reaboi. He's a national security, media, and political warfare expert and a fellow at the Claremont Institute to talk about why he's weighing in on picking sides in the battle between DeSantis and Donald Trump. We got all that and more coming up next. Oh God, this story. This is insane. The Meta whistleblower. Remember that lady who called out Meta for all of their privacy scandals and stuff? Says millions will die if social media is not overhauled. We'll talk about that, and then we'll get to David Reaboi when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Are blood money. These cuts are blood money. People will die. Let's be very clear. Senate Republicans are paying for tax cuts for the wealthy with American lives.
People need kidneys, it's sad but decreed, yet this senator's hoarding one more than she needs. I offer this bill and I hope you'll vote aye, unless of course you just want people to die. Traffic deaths have many crying with fear. Over 30,000 people are dying each year. This modest change I propose must be applied, unless of course you just want people to die. Alcohol deaths are exceeding comparisons. Black people, white people, Native Americans. We need to ban alcohol. It can't be denied, unless of course you just want people to die. Murders are bad. They have no defenders, yet many are committed by repeat offenders. I say lifetime in prison, whatever the crime, unless of course you just want people to die. I don't have a bill or a groan to detail. I just need a short clip for my donor email. Tim, there's blood on your hands. You want people to die. That good? Cool. Tim, dinner at 5? Yeah. The car deaths I mentioned are terrible stuff. Doesn't seem one seatbelt is ever enough. You must vote for my act so that fewer will cry, unless of course you just want people to die. The carbs, the container, we cannot ignore. Whipped cream's killing more people than ever before. This bill would be passed and be ratified if those people that didn't want people to die. Why not weigh all the costs, the effects, the results, empathize with each other as if we were adults, use our brains to craft arguments, not vilify, see that freedom's a trade-off. You want people to die! I tried.
Do you want people to die? Good morning, Austin Peterson here. Thanks so much for tuning into the Wake Up America show. We're grateful and glad to have you here. It's going to be an awesome Tuesday. We've got incredible guests coming up for you. In just a few minutes, we're going to talk to David Reaboi about why he's weighing in on the DeSantis versus Donald Trump battle. But first, why did I play that clip? You want people to die. It just made, when I saw this headline yesterday, it just reminded me of that video. That Meta whistleblower, remember that Frances Haugen chick who said, she's come out recently and said that tens of millions of people could die in the coming years if social media isn't overhauled. Yeah, she's the one who leaked those internal Meta documents that showed the company knew that it caused harm to teenagers. She says that tens of millions of people will die if social media isn't overhauled. So she says she's trying to change society's understanding of social media. She worked at Facebook until 2021 when the Wall Street Journal published documents that she leaked known as the Facebook files. They included research reports and discussions that show that the company knew that they were causing harm. Now, she's written a memoir, which she's trying to sell, in which she says social media is still damaging due to a continued lack of transparency. And I think not a lot of people would disagree with the fact that social media has negative consequences, but she says that Meta's profits were contingent on no one knowing how large the gap between Facebook and Instagram's public narratives and the truth had grown. Okay, no surprise there. She says that the only way to change that is to overhaul our understanding of social media. I love it whenever whistleblowers come out, whenever they have ties to the deep state, like this Frances Haugen chick, and then they turn around and, of course, what is it that they advocate for? More regulation, more government control. Oh, well, if the government would just step in and control social media and tell them what to do, everything would be better. But government has stepped in and controlled social media and told them what to do. And that's the problem that we have had, was with the leak of the Twitter files from Matt Taibbi and others. When Elon Musk took over Twitter, we saw that that's what the government does when they step in and do things, is they control the information and they tell people what to think. Think about that in the context of that Hunter Biden laptop story during the election. I mean, that was literally election interference, right? Our own government stepping in to affect the outcome of an election. And this Frances Haugen chick coming out here and saying, people will die if we don't overhaul our understanding of social media. If you don't buy my book, tens of millions of people could die. And when I read this sentence or this paragraph here, tell me if it sounds as ridiculous to you as it did to me when I read it. She says, a lot of people will die in the next 20 years if we don't solve this problem, she said, adding that the figure would be tens of millions. If you do not buy my book, people will die. How many people will die, Francis? Tens of millions. No!
Oh, God! No, God, please, no!
Oh, God, no! Tens of millions of people will die. Oh, God, no. Anyways, it's just a brief little story I want to share. It just made me laugh. I'm just so tired of the ridiculousness, aren't you? All right, I'm going to go get David Reaboi. We're going to talk to him about why he's picking sides in the Trump versus DeSantis battle and which side he's on when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, you know, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Oh, Okay, where was I? All right. The Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
George. Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself, or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me Pops build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching us live right now, do us a favor, click that like button. And if you're enjoying the content, make sure you click subscribe as well so you can get notifications whenever we're live. The Wake Up America show is every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central. I know we've got a lot of new viewers and listeners over on Apple, Fire TV, and Roku. Welcome to you. And we're super grateful to have you as subscribers of the show. If this is your first time watching us today, we're going to give you some great content. We're all about economic freedom and personal liberty, and that's what we fight for here. Those are the principles that we are grounded on in this show. My next guest is described by Politico as a right-wing Twitter pugilist. So let's give him the old 1-2. His first time on the show, David Reaboi is joining us now. Good morning, David. We're grateful to have you here today.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Yeah, David. So I follow your Twitter for quite some time. You are self-described as national security, media, and political warfare. You're a fellow at the Claremont Institute, and you've been described as a right-wing Twitter pugilist by Politico. How did you get such a great, credible title like that?
I don't know. It just kind of happened. It was. I mean, I go on Twitter just to tell people what I think. I think that's what what most people do who are not kind of actively making money from it. And some people seem to like it.
Yeah, well, before we get to the big story that I really want to talk to you about today, which is why you've picked sides in the DeSantis versus Trump battle, I'd like it if you wouldn't mind commenting on the news of the day, which is the big story that the trans activists that were invited to the White House lawn decided to go topless, free the nipple, or whatever it is, just after they met with Joe Biden and his wife. Kind of dicey, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean it's completely ridiculous. I hope that by now people understand that that they used to say, "Oh, it's the slippery slope fallacy," but I don't think there's anything fallacious about it at this point. When you get, or when when you indulge, when you permit, when you when you think that some of this stuff is okay, then naturally it's going to go to the, to its final conclusion, which is stuff like this. And you can't. These activists have long tried to say, oh no, this will be very dignified. We're just going to have, we're just going to have trans men and trans women looking, very, very dignified and normal. They're just like you and me. And then at the end, not even the end of the day, I mean, within the next few minutes, they're ripping their clothes off and they're doing all kinds of weird stuff. And that's part of the thrill for them when you're dealing with this type of, these types of behaviors and motivations and what have you. The exhibitionism is really a part of it. They're like, why are they so adamant against pushing this stuff in front of children? Well, like, yeah, of course they are, because that's part of the thrill. Part of the thrill is doing the doing the impermissible and freaking out the normies and freaking out the kind of bourgeois mentality of most of the population, and that's what they want.
What's funny is, like, I'm not even a normie, but I've seen everything, man. But I'll tell you, that still kind of weirds me out. Quest Fanning over on the live stream says maybe we should call it the slippery nipple fallacy. Very funny, Quest. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to David Reaboi. He is a fellow at the Claremont Institute. David, I've been really interested to see your political views on Twitter. Specifically, how you've been weighing into the battle between Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. Are you a Florida resident, or?
Yes,
Uh,
I moved to Florida. I don't think it's an accident that many of Governor DeSantis's biggest fans on Twitter are folks who live in Florida. I think that speaks very well of his leadership and his term in office. It's a lot of us. I mean, I moved here before COVID. I moved here just as he was getting sworn in, and I didn't think very much of it. I mean, I liked him in Congress. I'd worked with his office before, but I'd never really met him. And I thought, oh, okay, it's Florida. Florida elects Republican governors. He's just going to be a kind of, middle of the road guy, and that's going to be it. And then, of course, COVID happens. And then, kind of coterminous with COVID, you have DeSantis pursuing a laundry list of wish list items for the right, from, from pushing back on the insane gender stuff to dealing with crime, to going out against go out against ESG and CRT and some of these things. It was very apparent to me that that he got it, and not just from a kind of situational point of view. I mean, the DeSantis is grounded in philosophy. He understands what this all means, and I think he was really good on COVID because it wasn't just an issue of, well, let's lock down, or let's not damage the economy or whatever. I mean, of course, all that is important, but I think primarily he was like, well, I'm a freedom guy. And what's happening during COVID is screwing up the relationship between between the state and the citizen and large corporations and drug companies and the kind of the scientific industrial complex of CDC and the rest of these the rest of these types of NGOs that make decisions for Americans that are just completely unaccountable. And he said, "Hey, I'm the executive. I'm responsible for the millions of people who live in Florida. And if it's not going to be me who protects them, then it's not going to be anybody."
Nice.
And so he then, from that time on, he's kind of earned the love and respect of a lot of people who live in Florida, especially, and that's including folks who have been here forever, and especially including folks who moved here, because for them, they understood that this type of thing is fragile, and you've got politicians all around the country making terrible, terrible decisions. There was a difference between New York State and Florida. I mean, there's nobody who's going to tell you that there wasn't. So I think that's kind of part of the case for Ron DeSantis, in my mind. That's like, let's say 50% of the case.
Okay, 50% of the case. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the other 50% because there's another Florida resident who you need to get into right now, and that's Donald Trump, who is currently facing indictment not only in New York under Alvin Bragg, but also in the state of Florida and South Florida. I saw the news yesterday that his lawyers, his attorneys who were supposed to be representing him in that case, decided to depart the day before the first hearing. I'm curious as to why you haven't jumped on board with so many in the Republican Party, what appears to be the majority in the polls, in backing Donald Trump for reelection.
Look, I defended Trump vociferously and enthusiastically from 2016 until 2020. And I think that kind of expired when my desire to defend him expired when he was no longer useful. I mean, look, politicians are not, matinee idols or cult leaders or, big personalities with whom you have some sort of weird psychic bond. I mean, at the end of the day, they work for you, or they're supposed to work for you, and they're supposed to enact policies that move the agenda that you want. I don't think there's a Democrat in the world. Okay, I mean, I don't think there's an intelligent Democrat in the world who would take someone who doesn't deliver or is incapable of really delivering on their promises just because they like them. And I think that Donald Trump kind of uniquely he's past his prime. He's never going to get better than he was in his first term. And yes, there were some great policy victories in his first term, but for a number of reasons, from not knowing who to hire to not having the ability to do any follow through to constantly getting played by people in his own party, not to mention the Democrats, to Donald Trump has this ability of taking issues that 70-30 issues for us, like immigration. I mean, the right on immigration is, let's say, the right's argument on immigration is, which is to say, let's stop it, let's secure the border, et cetera, like that's massively popular. And only Donald Trump, uniquely Donald Trump, was able to take this issue and sort of flip it and make it an unpopular issue. And I know a lot of folks they're kind of seduced by this idea that, the left hates Trump so much that we have to double down and we have to support him. And at the end of the day, to me, that argument is not at all persuasive, because what are you getting? what you're getting is the only thing you're getting. You're not getting victory. You're not getting your policies. You're not getting any of the things you claim you're into politics in order to get. What you're getting is more of the Trump show. That's it. You're getting indictments and you're getting Trump taking the side of Disney just because he wants to crap on DeSantis, and really Trump running to the left on all of the gender stuff, and also the issue of use of state power against large corporations. I mean, he's definitely running to the left of DeSantis on that stuff. And I'm sorry.
No, I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say, that's something that I've been chronicling on this show, is that quite frequently when DeSantis takes a position to the right, Trump, rather than running further to the right of DeSantis, will actually run to the left of DeSantis. He's done that when it comes to entitlement issues, when it comes to Disney, and a whole host of other issues as well. But I wonder, if it comes to the question of, the election itself, do you agree with Trump supporters about the election integrity question? Do you think that Donald Trump actually won the last election like so many other Trump people did? Or do you think that it's just a simple matter of the fact that Joe Biden got more votes? What do you think?
Honestly, I have no idea. Obviously, Joe Biden won the last election because he's the guy sitting in the White House. Now, beyond that, there are all sorts of, there were all sorts of irregularities, and there were all sorts of, let's say, influences on the election. And I think kind of spurred on by Donald Trump, the right in America has gotten completely obsessed with the issue of voter fraud in a completely unproductive way. I think that anytime that Donald Trump would not win, he will say that it's fraud and it's stolen and it's fake, and I mean, there's no way he's ever going to accept a loss. And after 2020, there were enough kind of weird things for people to say, hey, you know what, maybe this is he's making a legitimate case, or maybe he's right.
Do you
It was
think he's
very
taking
hard.
advantage of his
Yeah.
followers in that way? I saw this morning that you were criticizing some of his biggest supporters for kind of winking and nodding to the QAnon conspiracy. Do you think that there's a little bit of that going on?
I think there's a lot of that going on. Look, in my mind, the worst thing you can do in politics, it's far worse than malpractice. It's really gross. The worst thing you can do in politics is to take advantage of your own supporters. And people say, oh no, well, politics is full of lying, and that's just how you do it. You lie to people, and you misrepresent, and whatever it takes to win, blah 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 blah. It's like, no, you're supposed to lie to the other team. You're not supposed to lie to your team. And the indulgence of some of these people, and I'm sorry, but like, the QAnon thing is not cost free, and it's not just fun and games, and it's not whatever. I mean, I'm not a leftist. I don't think it's a great threat to, whatever terrorist threat to the country, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I think that's ridiculous, but it does damage the way people's brains work. And to do that to your own people is really, really bad, because at the end of the day, you're making people not useful. Now, we can go through QAnon itself and talk about how belief in that nonsense actually does make you participate less in politics.
It's kind of a black pill, isn't it?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a black pill that looks like a white pill, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're constantly waiting. It's basically TV, and you're constantly waiting for the show. You think, I mean, there are tens of thousands or more. There's so many people out there who believe that Donald Trump is still the commander in chief, and that he has executed his enemies from Hillary Clinton to Joe Biden on down, executed them at Guantanamo Bay. And the people now who are Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris, and all these folks, those people are actually body doubles. And that, one of the things they say is the Patriots are in control. And,
well, if they're in control, they're doing a shitty job, David,
right.
because the country's really on the wrong track.
So you say to them, hey, if Trump is really the commander in chief, why is he allowing this to happen to the country? And then they say, no, he wants to expose it. I mean, this is the plan. He wants to expose
It's the plan. It's the plan. It's like that show
Yes.
Quantum Leap from back in the day. You kept wondering when was the time he was going to finally leap back into his
Right.
own body.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. And at the end of the day, you're messing with the wiring of people's brains because you're telling them things that cannot be true. And of course, one thing builds on top of the other. And look, sadly, you've got this crazy guy. There's a crazy guy on Twitter who believes that, obviously, he believes that Trump is still commander in chief, and all these people have been executed. But he also, his big thing is he tracks flights because for some reason, and he's got whatever 50, 60, 70 pages written about this. For some reason, the tracking of different flights from different countries, illustrates how this plan is working together. So this guy he's huge on Twitter. I mean, he's bigger than our accounts, and the guy is at Mar-a-Lago regularly. And people see this, and they see his photos with Trump, and they see his photos with the family, and they say, okay, this guy wouldn't be there unless it was true.
That's fascinating stuff, David. We could go down a rabbit hole for sure, but we definitely don't have enough time. I do appreciate you being so generous with your time, though, this morning. David, would you mind telling us a little bit about Late Republic Nonsense, your Substack, and if there's anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we go?
Sure. Late Republic Nonsense is where I occasionally post writing about, the end of the Republic. And I have some stuff in there about culture and music and things like that as well. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been writing there lately as much because honestly, it's too dispiriting sometimes.
Well,
Things are really dark out there.
Well, you should join us more on this show, David, because this show is one big white pill. We always look for the silver linings in every clouds. We find the best in people, and we still believe in the American dream. So thank you very much for joining us, David, with your take on things. We appreciate and we like following you on Twitter. Follow David Reaboi and subscribe to his Substack, Late Republic Nonsense. I'm a big jazz fan myself, David, so we'll have to talk about that some other time. Dizzy Gillespie and all the greats. So
Absolutely.
thank you very much for your time today. Enjoy the sun down there in beautiful Florida, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Absolutely. It was great. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. What did you think of David Reaboi? Send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. We still got lots more great show to go. I'm excited to have Camelia Peterson on today at 8 a.m. to talk about why the Kochs have launched an all-out war against Donald Trump. It's going to be interesting. Stephanie, my lovely wife over in the live stream, says, David is just so soothing to listen to. Yeah, I know. Didn't you think that was interesting? I was kind of surprised, honestly, hearing his voice because he's like a gigantic buff gorilla of a man. And yet his voice is so sweet and so gentle. Like he could rock you to sleep from those arms that are the size of steel pipes. Sarah Nichols says David is great. Who made the joke about a new show idea? Oh, Quest Fanning says new show idea, Trans Leap. Very funny. That actually could be an interesting show. Like you jump into the body of a trans person to see what it was like and see try and change the outcome, convince them maybe not to get the gender surgery. I don't know.
No, God!
I have no idea.
No,
Anyways, you
God,
got to be careful about saying things
no,
like that that could get you in trouble with the FBI. The Wake Up America show is brought to you by viewers and listeners just like you. There's lots of ways that you can support the show. One free way to do so, and to do it right now, is to click that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content that you see right now. I know the Wake Up America show is not for everybody. Some people are going to tune in and get totally triggered by a lot of the things that they have to say, but I promise you that if you stick around, you might get angry at first, but then I think you'll really enjoy us. It's like that old saying, the truth will set you free. But first, it will piss you off. If you'd like to support the show and engage in that capitalistic freedom that we believe so much in, that economic freedom and personal liberty, why don't you head on over to apforlibertyshop.com and get yourself an awesome all gun laws are an infringement shirt. We believe in the right to bear arms here in the country. And if you've got bear arms as big as David Reaboi's, well, a shirt like this will make you look even more awesome. Check out AP for Liberty, apforlibertyshop.com. That's AP, the number 4, apforlibertyshop.com. Why don't you do it during the commercial break so I can go get CJ Peterson? That's Camellia to you. And no, we are not related. She's an SON and I'm an SEN. You son of a... Peter? Check out AP4libertyshop.com. All of the 4th of July collection is 15% off right now for the next 2 weeks. If you buy anything from the 4th of July shop, it's all 15% off. And let me tell you something. If you want those American flag sneakers, you need to order them now because it's going to take a little time to print them and to get them shipped to you. So please do me a favor, buy your American flag sneakers now so they will be there by the 4th of July. Go to AP4libertyshop.com. Any of our 4th of July items now, 15% off. It's a great deal. Taking money out of my pocket and put it in your pocket. As long as a bunch of awesome American flag products, merchandise designed by me. Like most of these things are designed by me. Well, a lot of them designed by my wife, Stephanie, too. All right, I gotta go. All right, when I get back, CJ Peterson will be here to talk about the all-out war against Donald Trump by the Kochs. I like Coke on the weekends, though. Yeah, actually, it's just, I had to stop because it might give me a heart attack. No, not that Coke, caffeine. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America Show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors, what would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Look at us running on time today. Good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Happy Tuesday. Wow, look at that huge audience over on Rumble. What you doing? I see you over there, Rumblers. You trying to show the Cantina crew up over there on YouTube? Yeah, I see you. I see you. Why don't you do us a favor, all those people watching us right now? Click that like button and subscribe to my Rumble channel. Help us to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. And then you get to hear from me 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time is the Wake Up America show. And if you're not always free to join us live, I do download the audio version of the podcast for you, which you can subscribe to on any social network that you listen to your podcasts on, whether it's Apple, iTunes, or what have you. Speaking of Apple, we're also streaming live over on Apple, Fire TV, and Roku. We added an extra 125,000 views of the Wake Up America show in the last month. The Wake Up America show just keeps getting bigger and bigger thanks to the support of people like my next guest, the Koch brothers. No, not the Koch brothers. Well, have they supported the Wake Up America show? That would be kind of cool. I could take some Koch brothers money. That'd be nice. Make me a paid shill. Come on, what say you? The New York Times is reporting that the Koch network will back GOP primary candidates, and they will be taking aim at Trump. The donor network, created by the billionaire industrialist brothers Charles and David Koch, is preparing to get involved in the presidential primaries in 2024 with the aim of turning the page on the past. That's a thinly veiled rebuke of President Donald J. Trump, according to an internal memo. Joining us right now is a member of the vast right-wing conspiracy to take over the government and leave people alone. That might be one of the best intros I've ever done, and I made it all up on the spot. Camelia Peterson joining us right now. Hey, CJ, what's going on?
I love that intro. And, you know, I just sometimes in this world on fire, you know, you just have to find joy in the little things like, you know, getting a new coffee grinder and so you have a nice fresh hot cup of coffee. It's like, it's the little things.
I know, well, I had a great conversation there with David Reaboi a few minutes earlier. You were a little skeptical of him because of his ties to the Claremont Institute, apparently.
Yeah, no, and I was like, I didn't realize that he was with Claremont or that he was a fellow anyway. You know, that doesn't necessarily mean he's with them, but anyway, because I've seen his content, you know, online, and anyway, that surprised me a little bit because usually what I see from the folks that come out of Claremont is kind of that right nationalist populist stuff, and they're usually, you know,
they're very anti-libertarian typically. Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. Yeah, for sure. This is fine. This is fine. Well, apparently maybe they're starting to feel like the house fire around them is something that they should start to freak out about. You know, it's my opinion that it's just my opinion. People don't, you know, get mad all you want. I guess it's a free country, but I think that probably if the election were held today, Donald Trump would win the primary. And then if the national election were held the next day, he would probably lose the general election. Is that kind of like the general feeling amongst the Kochs and those billionaire oil industrialists? Camelia, what do you say?
It's so funny because I know that's people's perception of Americans for Prosperity, even though, you know, they're it's not just like Charles Koch sits up there on his throne and dictates all the actions, but they started this and founded this. And yes, I mean, the thing is that, I mean, the last 2 years have been horrible. We have to have a change. It's imperative, for the future of the country. And, that's just it, is that Trump is, he was not able to win, whether you think it was because of fair elections or not. Obviously, he wasn't able to win by a wide enough margin either way to overcome that. But he's very divisive, very polarizing. Everybody, when they run for president, talks about how they're going to be the great uniter. Biden talked about that, and nobody gets in and does it. I'm waiting for that presidential candidate who will actually follow through on that, because if people are criticizing Biden for not being a uniter, do you think Trump is going to get in there and be a uniter? I mean, is he uniting anybody in his primary campaign?
Right.
I
Well,
don't
I
think
also
that's going to
remember
happen.
Joe Biden said that we need to restore honor and decency to the White House,
No.
and now he's got a transgender person with their boobies hanging out on the White House lawn. So, I mean,
Right.
they went that.
Well, and here's the thing, when we're out talking to people at doors, on the phones, however, when you're out in the general public and you ask people, what is your number one concern? What is the most important issue in the country right now? What do you think they say? It's the economy, stupid.
Mhm.
And like, nobody's talking about the economy. And yet that's what's on people's minds. And this, all of those other things, I mean, it's ridiculous, the situation we're in with things like that happening in the White House, and that's got to stop. But none of that is going to matter if we get to a point where people are starving in the streets.
Yeah, no kidding. I managed to pull up that clip you were talking about, the ads that the Kochs are running, or excuse me, the ads that AFP is running through Americans for Prosperity. I'm going to play that clip for you here real quick. Camelia, just hold on just a moment. I'll play this for the audience, okay?
Trump says this time he'll beat Biden. But 60% of voters don't want Trump to be president. The only way Biden wins is if we nominate Trump again. The American people are ready to move on.
Okay, the American people are ready to move on. Now, they cited this poll that says 60% of voters don't want Trump to be president. Talk to us about that, Camelia.
So I'm sure that those numbers are taken from a wider swath than what polls are usually looking at with this. And I say that because I brought this up here a while back, where there was a poll that was done that talked about how people identify politically, and 20 some identified as Democrats, 20 some identified as Republican. It was very close. It was like within a percentage point of each other. 44% identified as independent, because people are unhappy with what they're hearing from both parties. And so it's those people in the middle that are the people that we need to be looking at. They are the people who are looking for a change in leadership. And this is something that, we hear about all the time, but the loudest voices are the ones that are kind of, set the tone for everything. But in 2022, those people, that 44%, they were the reason for the red wave that did not happen. And
Eric Wilson over in the live stream says Trump would wipe Biden in the debates. I think anybody could wipe Biden in the debates, to be quite honest. It wouldn't take somebody like Trump to destroy Biden in the debates. He's barely lucid. I did find the other clip as well, the other 15-second commercial called Thanks from Americans for Prosperity. Let me play that real quick, Camelia, and then we'll talk about it.
Trump did a lot of good things as president, but this time, Trump can't win. Swing voters say no. 60% of Americans don't want him. In 2024, Biden will beat Trump. We need new leadership.
Okay, so that's
Trump.
Number one thing that it says right there, Camelia, and I guess maybe you have to speak to that one, is President Trump did a lot of good. He did.
Sure. Yeah. And, we would never deny that. I mean, AFP worked with him on a lot of things, including those, one of the best things that he did, which was nominating Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. So those Supreme Court nominees, AFP was involved in that process and making recommendations. as well as, the First Step Act, which ironically, is the thing that he's getting hit on from his primary opponents, which is disappointing. But, there were some very good things that he did, and economically as well. Unfortunately, I think a lot of those things that were done on the economic side of things were done by executive order. So we saw them promptly undone, which is, that's the pitfalls of ruling by executive order. But I think that, people have just election political fatigue in general, and there's a lot of hopelessness. And they're really, really tired of just the constant negativity, and they're looking for some kind of hope. And one of the reasons, people always talk about, oh, these organizations that get involved in dark money and all these kind of things. But, there's people out there, they don't know what to do. They don't have the tools to do it. They don't know how to do it. And so that's where organizations like AFP, and there are other organizations that are doing work like this as well, come in and they come alongside people and give them ways to do that. One of the reasons that AFP even decided to look at the presidential primary is that last year we did 22 federal primaries and almost 200 at the state level with an 80% win rate. And people who won in those primaries had a much better chance of winning their general, is what they found. But when we were out at doors and we looked at the data afterwards, people who voted in the primary that we had contact with at the doors, 15% of that group had never voted in a primary before. They were general election voters, but they'd never voted in a primary before. And that was a significant number, and kind of spurred, more action on in primaries, because I think we saw in 2022 also that we just have a real tendency to get bad primary candidates, and it makes it hard for them to win in the general election. So we've got to get better primary candidates. So, we're gearing up, and a lot of what's happening right now is really, AFP hasn't chosen. I know the question is like, who are you backing? AFP hasn't chosen a candidate yet, and that probably won't happen until, much later in the summer, early fall. But right now, the focus is like, we need to be talking to voters, well, not just voters, but people in general in all of these early primary states, and, just seeing what they think, because we need to hear from voters, who they're leaning towards, what do they want to see, what are their priorities, and getting them engaged in the process at all. Because there's a whole lot of apathy. People talk, when he was talking about when David was talking about the QAnon thing, and how that it actually contributes, people who are in that are less likely to get out and vote, it really does contribute to apathy. And I think that, we will see that too in the other way towards all of those swing voters, those independents in the middle, that if we end up with a competition between Trump and Biden again, they're going to be like, okay, I'm done sitting at home, staying at home. It's not worth it.
I guess so, but I'm just curious though about this number that it's showing in the poll that you that cited in terms of the women. 72% of women don't want Trump. Explain that.
Well, I think we've seen that supported in a lot of other polls too. When you, especially women in suburban areas. So we've talked a lot about those suburban white women
destroying this country.
Yeah, but Trump has dramatically lost the suburban female votes. And so I think that's something that, these are women who are looking at, their children and the future of, what's going to be there for them. And, women just, I know the 19th Amendment.
And its consequences.
I get it. But, I think we are such a divided country that there's no recourse if we don't find a way to bring back some civil dialogue and start talking to each other and changing hearts and minds, because we're going nowhere right now. We're spinning our wheels with just constant, going back and forth.
One last ad here. This one is called Biden's Secret Weapon.
What's Biden's secret weapon? Donald Trump is the GOP nominee. Then Biden wins the White House and gets the House and Senate too. It's easy to see why Democrats want Trump. It's Biden's ticket to re-election.
Biden's ticket to re-election. You think that that's true, Camellia, that the Democrats want Donald Trump to be the nominee?
I really do. I mean, I've been saying this personally for a long time now, that I think that there's nothing that would be more motivating to the left to turn out to vote than if they got to come out and vote against Donald Trump, because they're not voting for Biden. Let's face it. I think that Democratic voters, in general, really don't want Biden. I think they would much rather have somebody else. But I absolutely do think that they hate Trump so much that that would be highly motivating for them. And I mean, it's my personal conspiracy theory that that's why, the Biden administration has been doing all of these things with FBI, the FBI with Trump, and, all of these indictments and whatnot. And I know people who are convinced that this one right now with Trump is going to be what, sends him to jail. And I don't know, I'll believe it when I see it, but we've got to move forward and start focusing on really things of substance that are actually going to move us in the direction of freedom, because boy, we're losing a lot of it, and fast.
Mr. Neo C over on the YouTube live stream says, we had a 100-year run of letting women vote, and the country has nonstop declined into nanny statism as a result. Correlation, causation, or...
I think that's correlation. There's probably, a lot of other factors that are involved in that too. Let me say this. We, come into this fully realizing that a lot of the folks we work with are not going to be happy about this. We work with a lot of Trump supporters. We have a lot of people who work for AFP who have supported Trump. And so it is not about, what he deserves. It's not about, whether or not he did good. It is about whether or not he can win. And I think this is the predicament that Trump supporters face right now. And it's easy to be inside your own bubble and think your guy can win. And, you want to support him at all costs. We don't have that luxury. We need someone who can beat Biden and who can do it by more than a percentage point or two, because for all of the election fraud problems, have any of those been fixed? All of those election laws in those other states, that, none of that. So we can't, we have to kind of factor that in the strategy, and it has to be a clear-cut victory.
Camellia Peterson, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go today?
Well, I would just say this, is that there's a whole lot of, we have a real tendency to talk a lot and post a lot online and be outraged. And the real weakness in a lot of active grassroots groups is that they kind of go down rabbit holes chasing things that don't have any productive outcome. And we really need to focus on what's going to get us further down the road. And that means we've got to get good candidates in order to get those good policies passed. And that means we have to talk to people and learn to talk to them about liberty, without starting a fight all of the time. So,
I could probably stand to learn that lesson.
We have ways to help with that. And so, anyone is, with my AFP hat on, is welcome to reach out and talk to me, because you want to know how to do something and you want a way to get involved, I can help you with that.
All right. Camellia Peterson, we appreciate that very much. Camellia, thank you so much for your time today. We look forward to seeing you again on Thursday.
Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day. That's Camellia Peterson. She joins us every Tuesday and Thursday on the shows at 8 a.m. Central Time. We're grateful to have her here. All right, this next clip caught my attention last week, posted by Libs of TikTok. This is a trans man, means biological woman, who realizes how hard it is to be a man when you're really a woman. Take a listen to this.
Told me how lonely being a man is. I had closer friendships with random women I met in the bathroom before I transitioned at clubs because of how open women are than I've had in my 8 years of transitioning. Because women are just so much more vulnerable and deep than men. But to have known, and I think a lot of trans men feel this, is we knew what depth felt like before we transitioned. We knew what it felt like to have people want to hug us. And to have people want to talk to us. and have a community, and then you transition and you're just a guy walking down the street that people cross the street so that they're not near you. And friendships are so much harder to build. And people are colder. What's hard is none of this invalidates how real and raw women and people who are in marginalized groups feel about cis white men. All of that's valid. But I also now understand why the suicide rate is so much higher in men. Because this shit is lonely. And I'm an emotionally mature man. I know how to build friendships, and it is still really, really hard. Try to think about how you can, in your small little community where you feel safe, can reach out to the men in your life and just help them feel maybe seen for a moment. Or do little conversations to help their emotional maturity so that they can reach out to people and have.
Okay, I have a lot to say about this. Probably I'll start with where she talks about being an emotionally mature man. An emotionally mature man, in my view, would not be the type of person who would cry on a TikTok video and post it on up to the internet. It's not to say that emotionally mature men don't cry; they absolutely do. But I thought it was interesting in the backdrop of this tweet that I saw yesterday that I've pulled up onto my screen. A lady by the name of Kendall over on Twitter posted this. She says, "The ick I get when a man mentions going to therapy or having anxiety is unreal. Like, it makes me feel sick. LMAO. Like, why are you telling me that?" Um, and I have a lot to say about that. But I posted, I retweeted it. I said, "Don't cry in front of them, gents, and don't let them know you're going to betterhelp.com/AP for liberty. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But do go to therapy if you need it. Male suicides are a problem, and we need you all here for the next revolution, lads. As for those like Kendall, never show them your true self and never ever give them a commitment." So we can say quite clearly, Kendall is obviously pure trash. But unfortunately, Kendall represents, I would say, a slight, if not a large, majority of young women these days who, in the dating market, find themselves disgusted by a m- men who would seek out therapy or who might show their emotions outwardly. I think one of the larger reasons for why men are more likely to commit suicide is because we have no support networks. Because, like the trans man was saying, that biological woman, once she became a man, she had to realize what it was like being a man and how lonely it is. Men are more likely to make themselves unalive. I have to be careful about using that word, S. But what she says is that here, this Kendall woman, she says that she feels disgusted. See, there's some sort of a biological, I believe, response that women have to seeing men showing any outward signs of weakness. It's something that I learned very early on, and something my wife and I have discussed ad nauseum when we talk about prior relationships and sort of the harsh lessons that I learned. And without getting into too much intimate detail, you only, as a young man, have to get cheated on, once or twice to learn that by exposing your vulnerabilities to women like Kendall and many others, you are exposing that they will take advantage of those vulnerabilities and will either take advantage of them by cheating on you, right, or by just feeling a sense of disgust towards you that will then disqualify you from their romantic affiliations. Now, I happen to find one of the needles in a haystack, like the smoking hot redheaded libertarian wife that I have right now is an exception to that rule. I know that if I decide to have some vulnerability or show some vulnerability toward her, that it's not going to decrease my status or attractiveness in her eyes. She's not an average woman. She's not like Kendall, and she's not like how most women are today, I would say. If you were going out in the dating market, though, and if they weren't like Stephanie, I would recommend to my men that you absolutely do not show these kinds of vulnerabilities. Don't tell these women that you're going to therapy. If your desire is to get what you want from them, and then I say that you should get what you want from them and then move on. Never give them a commitment. But there is a sort of an internalized stress that men like myself feel, and I'm sure other men feel. There's a constant stress that eventually starts to show in the lines in our faces or in the aches and pains that we feel, this anxiety, because by not sort of externalizing our anxiety or our anger or our suffering, by internalizing and keeping it inside and not showing it, the outward signs eventually start to crack. It's like the fingers in the dike. Eventually, the dike starts to break. But I find it, interesting. Yeah, for men, Chris Morrill nails it right there. Men, just look good and don't be a bitch. Are you talking about men or women? Great question. We're going to speak to our friend Nick Freitas here in just a few minutes, but I thought, that this nobody told me how lonely
being a man is.
being
I had
a
closer
man is.
friendships with
Welcome to
random
manhood.
women I met.
It was fascinating is, you see men transitioning to women, people like, and then they get status like Dylan Mulvaney, for example, right? Because, there's that natural status of womanhood being elevated, to a woman, but it's a demotion to become a man is what this transgender activist
In the
is
bathroom
claiming.
before I transitioned at clubs because of
You would meet women in the bathroom and then you would have instant friends. Oh my God, we're besties. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily besties because the only people that women treat worse than men is other women.
open women are than I've had in my 8 years of transitioning. Because women
this
are
is not how men behave on camera. So you can see that the femaleness is displaying itself because you don't see men screaming, crying on camera unless they're gay men. But this is a biological woman, and that's why she's crying on camera because men don't do that kind of thing, and they shouldn't do that kind of a thing if they don't want to disqualify themselves from future mating opportunities. And then hopefully one day they will meet their lovely, beautiful, smoking hot, sexy, redheaded libertarian wives who you can be vulnerable around, people like my lovely Stephanie Peterson. And they are out there, gentlemen. And if you're not fishing for those ladies in my Instagram, in the comment section where there are just tons of beautiful, redheaded and otherwise libertarian ladies, then you are screwing up. I'll tell you, I see so many stupid, idiotic libertarian men who are in the comments on my Instagram page with all these beautiful women who are commenting on my posts, talking about how they can't find themselves a good man. And they're all like, oh, there are no libertarian women, and just doing stupid stuff like that. You'd be better off simping than the stupid crap that I see so many libertarian men posting on my Instagram page. I swear to God, if you're a single libertarian man and you're not out there fishing on my Instagram page for all those beautiful women that are in the comments there and getting yourself a good libertarian woman there, like this thing I posted yesterday, there's smoking hot redheaded libertarian females in there. What are you doing? Go get them, gentlemen. It's like that scene in Glengarry Glen Ross. They're sitting out there waiting for you to take their money. Are you going to take it? Are you man enough to take it? It takes big brass balls to get a redheaded libertarian woman. We'll be back with Nick Freitas and his take on the FBI. I spy with my little eye on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
George. Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself. Oh, me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great. Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise in Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. If you're enjoying the program so far, make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel that you're watching us on so you can help us to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. And hey, you get something out of it too. 5 days a week, the Wake Up America show is broadcasting every Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. Make sure that you set your clock and get up nice and early with us to help us to spread the message of freedom and so that you can stay informed of what's going on in the world from a liberty perspective, which is what my next guest is all about. He is a former Green Beret, and I believe he also served in the House of Delegates in Virginia with viral clips that have been seen millions of times on Instagram and in other places. Joining us now on the show is a badass warrior for liberty. His name is Nick Freitas, and he's joining us right now. Good morning, Nick. Thanks for coming on the show.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you here. So, Nick, the left has given itself up to full-blown socialism. Whenever you see the left advocating for anything, whenever you see any leftist protests, Antifa is there. They've got the communist rally out. They are completely a foregone conclusion when it comes to adopting economic centralization. The Republicans have had a lot of anti-socialist rhetoric over the decades, but we knew that they were starting to, cave when it came to the debt ceiling fight and things like that over the years. I saw your tweet that really caught my attention the other day, and apparently a lot of people as well. You said socialism only fails because of Western sanctions, in air quotes. That's kind of a common socialist phrase. And then you said, so the only way socialism can succeed is if it has access to those, quote, evil and exploitative capitalist markets. You sure this is the argument you want to use? Nick, explain that to me like I'm a socialist.
Sure. So essentially, whenever somebody says, my gosh, I've noticed that when the Berlin Wall came down, it was everybody running from the east to the west and not in reverse. And oh, golly gee willikers, there doesn't seem to be any oppressed laborers in Miami making leaky raps in order to make it to the socialist utopia of Cuba. Why do you suppose that is? And of course, the response is, well, the only reason Cuba failed is because of Western sanctions. And they've even said, some people have even said the same thing about the Soviet Union in general. And so you want to look back and be like, okay, so let me get this straight. The United States and other capitalist countries are perfectly capable of flourishing economically and even socially, since again, we don't see a lot of people and laborers from the West moving over to socialist or communist regimes. We're able to do that with sanctions in place. But socialist countries are absolutely devastated if they're not able to get the products, the services, or the consumer base located in capitalist countries. Is that what you're telling me? And of course they want to look at that and they're a little bit baffled because they've been taught to think far enough to, oh, Western sanctions impacted the Cuban economy or the Venezuelan economy or the Soviet economy, but that they haven't gone one step further to say, well, wait a second, then shouldn't those sanctions have equally impacted Western or capitalist economies? Wouldn't this be a back and forth that would hurt both sides? And again, oh, by the way, every time a socialist regime, like a truly socialist regime, fails or is still in place, why are the laborers in that country, the very people that are supposed to benefit the most from this economic, political, and social model, why are they the ones always trying to flee? I mean, risk life and limb to flee, get shot trying to leave those countries. And it's amazing to me that this never comes up. And so every once in a while, I'll find a particular trope from those that are trying to support socialism and try to make it evident to them that, okay, even if you still believe this is a horrible argument and this is why.
Yeah, one of the things I find fascinating too is that a lot of socialists will say, oh, well, they don't have access to enough natural resources. But Cuba is a rich, diverse island full of natural resources. And if you compare it to Hong Kong and Singapore, right, both islands, no natural resources. And yet with laissez-faire economic policies, they were able to build up massive economies. They don't see that, but, it's kind of, nah, I'm not listening, right?
Oh, it absolutely is. I got in a floor debate with a former delegate named Lee Carter. He was the only self-described socialist serving in the state legislature of any southern state. And he got up one day and he was very upset because one of my other colleagues, Jason Meares, who's now the Attorney General, had talked about, like, why would the Democrats put forward someone like Bernie Sanders? He's a socialist. And he's not even a Democrat. He's a socialist. And Lee Carter goes, I'm a socialist, and here I stand as a proud Democrat. And then he went through this list of, and all socialists want is affordable housing and affordable health care. And all we want is education for everyone and an equal shot at opportunity. That's all. And I got up after him like, okay, I got news for you, Haas. Everybody wants the things you've just described. And none of what you've described is socialism. Those might be in states, they may be objectives, but that's not the process socialism uses to get there. Socialism is very simple. It's the abolition of the private ownership of the means of production. That means that you as an individual don't get to own a factory. You don't get to own a business of any sort of size and capability. You don't get to own, capital projects and investments which can actually produce things and distribute them. You don't get any of that. That will be owned by either, quote, the people, which has always been translated to mean the government. So that's what you want. That's how you think you're going to achieve those things. Okay, let's do a quick survey of every place in the world that has attempted that process. Have they done a good job at providing affordable healthcare and housing and education for everyone and an equal shot at people being able to pursue happiness? No, it turns out that they haven't, and people have been willing to die to escape. So spare me, your list of nice sounding in states masquerading as an actual economic or political theory. It's not. Be honest about what you want. And if you were, and they know this, if they were honest about what they actually wanted, they'd be in a lot of trouble, which is why they've reserved a lot of the specifics to places like academia, right? Or the arts and entertainment and Hollywood, because it's much easier to convince somebody of a fairy tale in those environments than it is in the actual environment where it turns out, my friend Christian, he always says that, you can ignore reality. You just can't ignore the results of ignoring reality. And that's always been the problem with socialist theory and practice.
Damn, that's good stuff. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. That's even better than a cup of coffee to get you woken up this morning. The Wake Up America show is hosting currently Nick Freitas. That's Freitas. No, I see Caleb Vanderfelt's over on the stream says that this guy's last name makes me think of a female version of Free Toes. No, it's Freitas. And you can follow him over on Twitter. Our friend Cheeky Mayor has dropped his link to his Twitter account this morning. The ladies are going goo goo gaga for Nick Freitas. Apparently, you've got a lot of big fans here joining us today, and we're grateful for your time, Nick. Did you see the transgender activists on the White House lawn with their tops off, bearing their what do you call it, supplemented breasts on the White House lawn yesterday, the Pride rally? Thoughts? I wonder if you had any thoughts on that, Nick.
Various alterations that have taken place. Well, I think it's kind of interesting the direction that this is all gone. I think both you and I operate off of a philosophy where the question when it comes to any of this has usually been, what's the government's role, if any? And my attitude is generally, I think people should be free to live their lives the way they want, provided they don't infringe on the rights of others. Now, that doesn't mean I have to agree with what you're doing. It certainly doesn't mean I have to celebrate it, or it doesn't even need to mean that I think it is a good idea. In fact, I would be more than happy to argue and debate and discuss with people why I think doing certain things, like mutilating yourself, is a bad idea. However, I don't think the government should punish you if you as a consenting adult want to do it. But we're now entering into this realm where I feel like all of a sudden, with basic standards that we used to put in place, such as, hey, adults can make certain decisions, even ones we don't agree with, but children can't. Children they have not reached the age of consent. We have to draw the line somewhere, and here's the line. Now, all of a sudden, that's going away as well. And it's amazing to watch just kind of how flippant this has all become. And, some of these demonstrations, I think this goes beyond someone just, being proud of the decision they've made. And it's starting to work its way more and more into this idea that, no, we're going to not just insist that, hey, the government doesn't put restrictions on us or things like that, but now we're going to insist that this be treated as if this is not only, perfectly acceptable legally, but we want to talk to your kids about it. And we want to encourage your kids along this path. And that's the part where I would caution people, like you're crossing a major line there. That's not going to be isolated toward just this individual thing. It's going to include a lot of other things as well. And I think that's problematic.
You're just tuning into the Wake Up America show. Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. If you like what you're hearing, and I know a lot of you do, make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel that you're watching us on. We are streaming live on about a dozen of them this morning, too many for us to list, so that you can get more economic freedom and personal liberty like the stuff you're hearing right now. Nick, it's hard to follow all of the indictments against Donald Trump and, the ins and outs of every accusation and allegation that's made against him. Sometimes I feel like the Democrats are taking a throw spaghetti at the wall, see whatever it is, sticks approach. But when it comes to this question of classified documents, I kind of agree with Elon Musk that it seems as if the government has an interest in prosecuting only one person for this kind of a crime, when you have Joe Biden and so many others who have seemed to also be mishandling classified documents. And I don't want to engage in whataboutism here. If what Donald Trump did was a crime, is a crime. You have to ask yourself, what is the appropriate punishment for something like that? But quite frankly, I don't know if the Presidential Records Act protects him or not. What is your take on this indictment, this most recent indictment against Donald Trump?
The one person that I've seen that I felt has been intellectually honest and consistent throughout all of this is Alan Dershowitz. And Alan Dershowitz is no, we're not talking about a warrior for liberty or anything like that right now. But I do believe that he believes in the consistent application of the law. And he said that, yes, Trump getting indicted based off of the evidence of the Justice Department, that actually makes sense. Now, whether or not they're going to be able to conviction, that's a very, very different thing, because a lot of people don't understand the difference between an indictment and an actual conviction. An indictment is essentially setting the whole process in line to be able to have the larger argument and discussion on it. But one of the things Dershowitz pointed out early on is that this does seem to be very, very selective prosecution. When you look at what was going on with Hillary Clinton, and again, it's easy for people to say, "Oh, that's whataboutism." Okay, fine, call it whataboutism. But I would like to know, what about the fact that the FBI didn't want to prosecute this, but is just hell-bent that this is, horrible and evil? It's like, well, wait a second. Hillary Clinton had people with hammers destroying hard drives and phones and everything else. And the statement coming from the FBI at the time was, well, yeah, there was a ton of laws violated, but we couldn't ascertain any sort of criminal intent. I'm like, okay, okay, fine. If that is that the standard, then is that the standard we're going to live by? And the answer is no. That's the standard we're going to live by when it's politically convenient to live by that standard. And then we're going to go hardcore rule of law. You're a traitor if you do this, when it's politically convenient to do that. And that's the part that people are frustrated with, especially, and I think Nancy Mace brought this up as well, representative from South Carolina. She brought up that the timing seems to be incredibly convenient. We have all of this new evidence coming back from oversight committees demonstrating that no, money was coming from illegal places into Biden's bank accounts or accounts connected to Joe Biden. And they seem to have very strong evidence that was the case. Well, I would ask the American people a couple of things. One, when you're looking at what do I want the FBI doing? What do I want their focus to be on? Do you want the focus to be on the fact that President Trump had classified documents that probably shouldn't have been in Mar-a-Lago, just like Joe Biden had classified documents that shouldn't have been at various locations, just like Hillary Clinton had a server that was set up that was completely controverted, laws with respect to the maintenance of classified information? Would you like that to be investigated, or would you like the pretty obvious line of potential connections, financial connections to foreign governments which are openly hostile to the United States, pouring money into a sitting president's or accounts associated with a sitting president? What would you rather? Or here's a third option. Would you like the FBI to focus on something like, I don't know, the freaking Epstein list? Because what this looks like to me is I don't like political corruption. I would like that investigated. I do believe that classified documents should be properly stored. I want that investigated. But gosh, I would really love some investigations on what seems to be one of the most notorious human and child trafficking rings in all of human history, for which, to my knowledge right now, there has been how many indictments for the people that are potentially involved in this? Like none. So I think this is the part where people are getting frustrated. And what I would hope is that regardless of where you stand, regardless of what politicians you prefer over other ones, we need to look at two things. One, the equal application of our criminal justice system, because when it becomes obvious that it starts to target one side or the other side, and a significant number of the population loses faith in it, that will have consequences that go way beyond what you may, like out of this particular indictment. And that's the real problem that we're arriving at right now.
I mean, I can tell that you're a liberty-minded person just because of the way that you actually give me both sides of your views on that one. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to Nick Freitas. He is a former, they call you delegates in the...
yeah, I'm actually still in the House of Virginia House of Delegates. Yeah.
Still in the House of Delegates, excuse me. He's a member of the Virginia House of Delegates and a former Green Beret. Can I ask you one last question? It's something that I've always wanted to ask you, Nick, because I respect your view on things. The question of when it comes to transgenders in the military, as someone who has served, I imagine you probably have a well-developed opinion on that matter. Would you mind sharing it with us?
Yeah, again, I go with the attitude of people should be able to, again, live their lives the way they want, provided they're not infringing on the rights of others to do the same. The issue that I've always had, or the concern I've always had with respect to transgenderism in the military, is that up until very recently, transgenderism was classified as gender dysphoria. It was essentially something of a mental health concern. And I would argue that even to this day, it is the only form of dysphoria that apparently we're supposed to affirm rather than be concerned about. We're supposed to celebrate rather than be concerned about. So what is gender dysphoria? Well, essentially, it's a deep psychological conviction that the physical reality of your body doesn't correspond with your psychological reality. Oh, okay, I can understand. I can appreciate how tormenting that must be. The other thing I would ask is, okay, is there any other realm when we look at psychiatry, when we look at other things, where we tell somebody, hey, the physical reality doesn't match your psychological reality, and so now what we're going to do is attempt in ways that we know can never properly achieve the end state to make physical reality correspond with your psychological reality. I mean, we know for a fact we can't do it. We can attempt to change social concepts. We can attempt to change words around. We can attempt to physically alter you in ways that will still never biologically make you what you desire to be or what you believe you are. But now we're going to do all of those things. And you start to move that back. It's like, okay, well, what happens when somebody identifies as something other than the opposite sex? What happens when they identify as something different, which is every bit as psychologically relevant and important to them? Are we now, is all of society now supposed to adjust the way that we look at reality in order to make this person feel better about their dysphoria? And there's two ways I would look at that. And that is, one, I think there's some very practical problems with that, especially when you're talking about military service. I also think that from a moral standpoint, the compassionate thing is not to affirm the dysphoria. The compassionate thing is to help someone come to grips with the reality of who they actually are, as opposed to engaging in a kind of, and I don't mean this to sound flippant, but a kind of make-believe that they can be something that they're not, because I would think that's the real torment. And I don't think we're doing anybody any favors by engaging in that sort of make-believe. In fact, I think what we're doing, or I think what a lot of people are doing that are just 100 miles down the road saying, nope, if you don't agree with this, and if you don't change, and if you don't address pronouns, and if you don't do all these things, then you're mean and you lack compassion. I would argue it's the opposite. I think the people that are reaffirming dysphoria because it either fits into a political ideology or it turns somebody else into a marginalized group that they believe they can politically exploit, or it just makes them feel better about their own desire for certain social outcomes. I think those are the people that are engaging in incredibly destructive and selfish behavior. I don't think it's the people saying, look, I am sorry you are struggling with this, but how do we get you to truly accept that the way you were created is genuine and beautiful? How do we help you achieve that, as opposed to having you undergo tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of surgery and pharmaceuticals and everything else, not to make you into the thing that you want to be, but to actually damage your body in irreparable ways in order to give a superficial impression. I'm sorry, I don't think that's the kind and compassionate approach to this. I think it's actually rather brutal, and I think we are going to come back at a time here. I don't know how long it'll take. I think it'll generally take the number of kids that are being subjected to this to come back as young adults, as middle-aged adults, to come back and really ask, what the hell did you do to me? And that's the part where I think we're going to have a reckoning on how we handle this as a society.
It certainly looks as if the audience appreciates the nuance in these opinions. I know that I certainly do. Nick Freitas, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners before we let you go today?
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity going on. If anybody would like to follow more of the work that we do, we have a podcast called Making the Argument, a YouTube show by the same name. And you can also follow us on Nick J. Freitas on Instagram and Nick4VA on Twitter. But really appreciate the opportunity.
Yep, it looks like we've got our friends who are dropping those links right now over in the chats. Nick Freitas out in Virginia, you're doing a great job spreading the message of economic freedom and personal liberty, and we're certainly grateful for your generosity with your time today. Keep up the fight. We appreciate you very much.
My pleasure. You as well.
Thank you very much. And Nick4VA over on Twitter, give him a follow. What did you think of Nick Freitas? Give him a follow over on Twitter, Nick4VA. Boy, that's good stuff. You really don't hear conversations like that anywhere else in the morning, do you? The Wake Up America show. If you like these kinds of conversations and you want to help to support us, make sure you click that like button. I see we've got a nice big audience over on Rumble this morning, but not very many likes. I think the issue is a lot of times people will tune into Rumble, but they won't be signed in to Rumble, and you have to be signed in to click that like button. It's just a little simple thing. Do us that favor. Would you sign in and click that like button? Maybe drop us a comment or subscribe to our channel over there on Rumble. And if you haven't done it on YouTube, what are you doing, Cantina crew? You should know better. We're grateful very much for your time today. The Wake Up America show is brought to you in large part by John Burke over at Shell Shock CBD, who's hooked us up with the products that have made my back pain this week so much easier to deal with. Thank God for John Burke and shellshockcbd.com, and get that 10% discount off of his awesome CBD products using that code AP4Liberty. You've got CBD and Delta 8 gummies. The Delta 8 are the ones whenever you want to have a good time and feel a little bit silly, and the CBD are just when you're looking for a little bit of pain relief. This freeze, roll on, roll out CBD freeze gel. Whew, saving my butt this week. I have really been struggling with I think an injury from last week when I was doing karate. I don't know what happened. Thank God my wife is here to help me out with a little back massage last night, and John Burke to help me out in the morning. And Stephanie gives me a little massage, then John gives me a little massage. No, John has just hooked us up with some great products from Shell Shock CBD, which you need to bring back to your home. Go to shellshockcbd.com right now and visit John Burke's website and use that code AP4Liberty. That's AP, the number 4, AP4Liberty. You'll get 10% off. And if you're like, hey, Austin, I want to try it, but I've always heard the CBD is nonsense and it doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? No risk. You get a money-back guarantee. If it doesn't work for you and if it doesn't accomplish your pain relief goals, send it right back. He will give you a full refund. That is how confident he is in the product, and we are grateful to John Burke for supporting the Wake Up America show. So if you're saying to yourself, good God, the Wake Up America show is awesome, I want to watch this show a whole lot more, well, you got to be subscribed for that. And two, you're saying to yourself, well, I do want to support the show financially, but I want to get something for it. Visit shellshockcbd.com and buy yourself some great products with a discount using that code AP4, the number 4, AP4Liberty. Well, what do you think? Great show? I mean, good God, I'm feeling amazing. Everything is going on time. The show is just kicking along. I'm super confident in the future. Things are going very well. We've got lots of exciting projects going on behind the scenes that I haven't even announced yet that we're working on. The Cantina crew is going to have a big float trip coming up here soon. I mean, it's so much cool stuff. Quest Fanning, nice to see you today. Thanks for buying some products over at AP for Liberty Shop this morning. Quest is a monthly subscriber to the show, so we got that 20% sweet discount from apforlibertyshop.com. If you're a monthly donor too to the Wake Up America show, you get that sweet discount, that sweet 20% standard discount that everybody who donates to the monthly to the show can get. So if you're not a subscriber yet, why aren't you? Well, you can head over to apforlibertyshop.com and use it. 4th of July sale, everything's 15% off for all of our Americana and awesome Founding Father style products. Did you see that cool George Washington shirt that I made that said, hey girl, on a scale of 1 to 1776, how free are you tonight? Oh, baby. I'll get you that smoking hot redheaded libertarian girl, won't it? All right, it's time to go. It was a great show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Best guests, best morning talk show. It's the Wake Up America show with me, AP for Liberty. We'll see you tomorrow morning on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.